Hello, CIJC contestants. My name is Cassandra Gorel, and I am your official beef judge for this year. Placing this class of Hereford 2-year-old females 2, 3, 4, and 1, with splits of 4, 2, and 1. Placing number 2 at the top of the class, as this is a female that I think comes very handily to the top of the class in terms of her overall structure, her balance, and her power. You can really appreciate that this female carries a lot of length of body, a lot of depth and openness of rib, as well as a lot of natural muscle shape in through that stifle and hind quarter, as well as this female carries a very ideal udder shape and teat length with her, which just makes her kind of the overall package and therefore comes quite handily to the top of the class. Placing the number 2 pigmented heifer over the number 3 stoutier made heifer for that overall easier fleshiness, as well as the way that her rib shape opens up off the top line in comparison to the number 3 heifer. If you really take a close look, you can see that the number 2 heifer, she's still carrying a lot of great condition despite raising a calf this year. And you can really appreciate that and through the hook and pin bones, as well as if you look at her actual rib shape in the picture, you can see that that openness of rib really starts off the top of the loin, which infers that this number 2 female is actually probably wider topped than our number 3 female. I know this is something that's difficult to appreciate when we're doing this virtually and just by pictures, as opposed to in person, you guys would have the opportunity to walk around these females. The number 2 heifer also has a more ideal calving ease EPD as it's in the positives with a positive 0.8 versus the negative 0.2 that the number 3 female carries with her, but that's really just splitting hairs in terms of overall EPD numbers for calving ease. Granted that this number 3 female actually does carry some pretty impressive yearling weight, weaning weight, and total maternal EPDs with her. Placing the number 3 female over the number 4 female for her overall balance to her structure. I think as well as the strength of top line that the number 3 female carries compared to the number 4 female. The number 4 female, she's very long bodied, but I think that this is something that actually contributes to her maybe looking a little bit piecier in her parts than the number 2 female, which blends very smoothly right from the front third to that last third. I think that the number 4 female maybe just gets a little bit coarser in through that front third than she is in through that last third, which is kind of where the opposite of what we would like to see. We want to see more of the natural muscle shape in through that rear third. And also the length of body probably contributes to kind of that more sway back that the number 4 female carries. Granted that if you look at our EPDs, the number 4 female certainly carries the most merits with her across the board in terms of calving ease, yearling weight, weaning weight, and total maternal. And finally, placing number 4 over another kind of stockier or shorter made number 1 female, I think for the overall correctness of structure. So whereas 4 was maybe a little bit piecier in her makeups, there was nothing that was overtly incorrect. Whereas if you really start to analyze number 1 female, I think you can appreciate she maybe gets a little bit more over in her shoulder when she's standing there on that front shoulder than the number 4 female does, as well as the number 4 female, that longer bodied female, actually is a little bit leveler hooks to pins than that number 1 female. Granted that, you know, this number 1 female, she certainly carries some depth of rib to her, and she's obviously raised a calf this year and is performing, but I think if we're going to get more critical back to udder shape, which I haven't really been super keen on talking about just because we don't know when these animals were pictured, as opposed to, you know, in an ideal setting in a show ring or for a competition, we'd make sure that these cows hadn't been sucked beforehand. But if I'm going to get critical, I think your number 1 female certainly has more ideal length to her teats than the number 1 female, who's maybe just getting a bit longer in teat length than we'd like to see in such a young cow. So for these reasons, I place this class of Hereford 2-year-old females 2, 3, 4, and 1. Thank you.